actually hasn't been how it's played out. In fact, investors and from America and from around the world have bought dollars in this crisis. So there still is an underlying confidence in the dollar,
which is why the dollar is increasing. Actually, it's gone up a little bit.
Well, I trade currency swaps for a living.
Yeah.
So I do again.
Did we bottom out 3 months ago?
I do all this offshore again. If you're listening to Tim Knudsen, he's real big on this offshore onshore stuff.
Get off time, come on.
Yeah, it's the dollar has rallied, no question about it. The dollar was trading at 156 or something like that versus the euro early in the year, and has rallied big time. It's trading as strong as as $1.25 versus the euro. But I want to add, it's all relative. And by relative, I mean the euro. That means that the euro was falling faster than the dollar. It doesn't mean that the fundamentals for the dollar are stronger. In fact, the fundamentals for the dollar are weaker. We have a national debt now that's approaching $13 trillion, even exclusive of the $700 billion bailout bill that Congress passed. You have about another $2 trillion in liabilities on the books here at the U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve. Things like the term auction facility at the Fed was refinanced, currency swaps refinanced. The Fed is now buying commercial paper. If you add all these liabilities up, you have another $2 trillion in liabilities, in addition to that $700 billion bailout bill. So again, tax revenues aren't backing this up. The only way we can pay back this debt is to debase our currency. In other words, to pay back the debt with dollars that'll work less.
So John, why does that lead to the current deflation scare? Shouldn't that be inflation? Aren't we backwards here?
No. Before that happens, you have what's happening right now in the market, something called capitulation. Yesterday we saw, and we've talked about this on Community News, the market could have held at levels they were trading at earlier in the week on Monday or Tuesday. Why do I say that? Because the dividend yield on the S&P 500 was incrementally better than that on 10-year Treasury notes. So just by sitting there holding a basket of stocks, the S&P 500, you could have made more in dividend income than you could have made in holding 10-year Treasuries.
Treasuries are at 3.1 something today?
In fact, I have that. The 10-year Treasury is trading at, earlier this week, it was trading at about 3.5%. Just before I came to the station, 10-year Treasuries are trading at 3.18%.
And dividends in the market are about 3.4 something?
Oh, no, about 3.7 now.
All right, it's even better.
Even better. Yeah. And that's an amazing move in a few days. But the market could have held because buyers could have said to themselves, just by owning a basket of really cheap stocks, I could get paid 3.5% just by sitting there. All right? What did the market do? It blew off 445 points yesterday. This is called capitulation. And Lawrence Fink, Chief Executive Officer of BlackRock right here in San Francisco, and one of the biggest bond traders in the world, predicted this last week in an international teleconference from the Merrill Lynch headquarters. He said that if the market did not hold at this level, we were looking at capitulation. So to answer your question, what has to happen is capitulation, and then you have a deflationary period, and then what happens? You're going to have such a huge spike up in deflation, and coupled with the collapse of the dollar.
So when we get to zero at the Fed fund rate, we'll have nowhere to go. And so, Andrew, when Putin's looking at this with his financial advisors, they're doing the same thing that the U.S. is doing. They're pumping money into the market, right? Into their market to stabilize or try to stabilize.
Yeah, that's right. The distinction is that in Russia and also in Saudi Arabia and in China, they have a large reserve of currency. So their bailout plans are actually being paid for out of their savings, which puts them in a slightly stronger position than the United States going into this financial crisis.
Because it's based on credit more here than Russia. So what's the credit market like in Russia? How do Russian companies build the infrastructure and such? Is it all still state-run projects? Is it sweetheart deals with a few contractors? How does that actually work?
No, they had gone outside of Russia for credit, and until this summer, they had gone to Western banks, some of the large French banks, BNP Paribas, also Wall Street banks, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, and had taken out loans for infrastructure projects. and for other investment. Now, because that money's drying up, just as it is drying up everywhere, some of the oil windfall money is being put into companies in Russia. This is what their bailout essentially is they've taken their oil windfall money, which is really the people's money in Russia. It's what they've saved from high oil prices over the last decade, and they're pouring it into businesses that had taken out, perhaps foolishly, loans from Western companies and now are unable to refinance that money, roll it over, or to pay it back.
So I just want to interject here. This is The Truth About Money with Jay Johnson. John Sackwick is host. You can reach us at truthaboutmoney@gmail.com. That's truthaboutmoney@gmail.com. We're broadcasting out of the Ukiah Valley TV studios in Ukiah today, streaming live to KZYX. It seems like there may be a couple little hiccups here and there that people are listening to, but we'll get it all worked out. And we're discussing Russian, U.S. financial markets and how they live off each other and leech off each other with Andrew Kramer, who is the economic correspondent for the Russian Bureau, direct from Russia today, with us in the studio. Andrew, along those lines...
Of the New York Times.
Of the New York Times, sorry, of the New York Times. And you can see all of Andrew's articles at NewYorkTimes.com, and you can watch the show at UkiahValley.tv after it's posted. The one question that is interesting that came up, you mentioned about foreign companies or local companies investing in foreign getting foreign money. You said that Russia now is kicking the tires of Alaska. Tell me about that story.
Well, the story really came out this summer, and the large Russian natural gas company Gazprom is interested in helping to build the Alaska to Canada, to the United States natural gas pipeline. And we had some of the executives fly into Anchorage right during the campaign. It looked like it might have been something of a political issue with Palin, of course, the governor, claiming some expertise